Hi everyone. Today we're going to model a Christmas tree. The fun part's that we're going to use geometry nodes for the ornaments. Let's go. Say bye to the default cube and light. Add a mesh circle with 24 vertices. Press F to fill face. I to inset. Bring the center face up on the Z-axis. Select the outer edge loop with Shift-Alt and left-click. Go to Select and click Checker Deselect. Slide the vertices up with GG. Select the outer edge loop again and click Checker Deselect. This time adjust the settings. I changed Deselect to 3 and Offset to 1. Slide the edge loops up again to get a jagged look. Add the Solidify modifier. Adjust it to whatever makes you happy. Press Shift-D to duplicate the layers of the tree. For the top layer, inset the center face and bring it up on the Z-axis to get a cone shape. It's looking too perfect. Select all the layers and go to Object. Go to Transform and click Randomize Transform. Adjust the settings accordingly. To make the trunk, add a cylinder with 24 vertices. Why 24? I have no clue. It just looks nice. Resize it to fit the tree. Select all the layers and apply scale. Now we want to join all the tree layers into a single object. Select all, right-click and click Join. Marvel at the awesomeness of what you've made. Go to the Geometry Node tab, make sure you have your tree layers selected and add a new geometry node to it. We'll put the balls or baubles up first. First, we'll subdivide the mesh to get more faces. We will be instancing ICO spheres onto the surface of the tree. I added a Join Geometry node so I can see the entire mesh. Drop in an ICO sphere node to the instance on points. I chose a subdivision of 2 and reduced the radius to something small. Connect the ICO sphere to the instance's socket. Add a Shade Smooth node between the nodes. Right now you'll see they're everywhere. So we need to figure how to have them below the topmost area. To do that, we add a vector node and a position node. We'll use the dot product to compare the vector to each point in the mesh. Set the z value of the vector to 1. Add a compare node and select less than or equal. Connect the value from the dot product to value A. Connect the compare node's result to the selection socket on the instance on points node. Increasing value B selects more faces of the z-axis. To distribute the balls randomly, we'll use a distribute points on faces node. Select Poisson disk. Connect the result from the compare node to the selection. Make sure to connect the subdivided tree mesh to the distribute points on faces mesh socket. Adjust the parameters to your heart's content. We'll use the same setup for the lights. Select all the nodes that we used to generate the balls, then duplicate them with Shift-D and put them below. You can put everything in frames if you want them a little neater. Press F2 to rename the frames. Connect the subdivided mesh socket to the second distribute points on faces socket. Then connect the second instance on points socket to join geometry. It looks like nothing happened. That's cause you need to adjust the light size and change the seed number for the distribute points on faces node. Boom. Tweak the settings to whatever floats your boat. Check out your tree that you didn't have to painstakingly decorate. Now we'll set up the material. Selecting the tree, add new materials. We'll need separate materials for the balls, lights, and the tree. Rename the materials to pretend you're organized. To add the materials, add a set material node. Connect the set material node to the respective noodles. We'll also need to realize instances. Add a store named attribute node. We will use this to store the position of the instances for the material later. Add a position node. Attempt to all these nodes to the frame and fail at it. Add a random value node. Join it with a math node set to add. Add the position node and the random value together. Connect the math node to the value of the store named attribute node. The random value just spices things up for later. Name your stored attribute. I'll call mine ball position. Press enter. Don't be me. Duplicate the position node, random value node, store named attribute node, and realize instances node. Place them with the lights node. They're connected exactly the same way. Name the stored attribute for the lights. I named mine light position. It's important you remember the attribute names. You'll see why later. Set the materials accordingly in the Set Material node. Go to the Shader tab. Then realize you forgot to add lights and decide it's not important yet. We'll settle the tree first. Select the tree and assign the material to it. Don't worry, the geo-node objects won't be selected. Select the trunk and give it a brown color. I ended up adjusting the camera and the lighting just to see the objects better. You'll see me set up a simple 3-point lighting. I usually just grab the lights and rotate them to point at the object. I'm sure there's a way better way to do this. Okay, now back to the materials. We'll settle the balls first. The setup is pretty straightforward. We'll take the ball position attribute to let them drive a color ramp so that we have random colors. Add an attribute node. Add a color ramp. Connect the color ramp to base color. I chose red, blue, and yellow cause Christmas. At this point, I'm wondering why it doesn't work. Then I realize I'm a dummy. I forgot to type the attribute name. Do not be me. I was about to cheer at my awesome and realized the shading's all weird. I checked my notes and realized the store named attribute needs to be set to vector and instance. I am so smart. Yay. Make sure you change the settings for the lights node as well. Back to shading and check out your randomly colored baubles. Onto the lights. It's the same idea. Add an attribute node. Later on I realize I typed the attribute name incorrectly. So do not follow me. Do as I say, not as I do. I reused the color ramp from the balls. Connect the noodles to the sockets. Right now I'm asking myself what went wrong. I decided to check the attribute name. Yeah, I'm a simp. And magic. 'Cause we deserve a little fanciness. I'll add an emission to the lights and get them to flicker. I took this idea from Default Cube and just made a minor tweak to it by choosing a different texture. To get this done, add a math node set to multiply. In value A, type in #frame. This will automate the animation. In value B, set it to a number like 100. This sets the speed of the blinking. Bring in another math node. Set it to add. Connect the result from the multiply and the attribute vector to this new node. Add in a wave texture. Connect the add node's result to the vector of the texture. Then connect the color to a math node set to compare. Add in one final math node set to multiply. This number will be like the emission strength for the lights. Again, I'm wondering where I messed up. You need to adjust the second value in the compare node. I'm troubleshooting by adjusting the rest of the values before I realize where I went wrong. Dumb. About 90% of my time on Blender is just troubleshooting. Yay! Blinking lights. I realized I forgot to add a star on top of the tree. If you don't have extra objects, you can enable it in your preferences and add-on menu. To be honest, if you got this far, I highly doubt you'd have that problem. Just tweaking the star. Tweak. Adding a material with an emission to make it shine. For the rest of the video, I'm setting up the scene to render. I'm using Eve to render cause the bloom looks so boom. To create the backdrop, I added a plane. Scaled it up. Set it just below the tree. I applied scale and extruded 3 sides. Beveled the edges and shaded smooth. Make your backdrop whatever color you like. I chose something rough so that it doesn't reflect too much light. Here I'm fussing with the lights just because. And 5 years later, we render. Here's the final render. I hope you enjoyed the video.